I was staring at my phone under the table, fork halfway to my mouth, when the text came through from a number I'd never seen before. Don't react. They're recording you. My mother-in-law was mid-sentence about her new garden sprinkler system, gesturing with her wine glass, and my husband Derek was nodding along like he always did when she talked. But something in my peripheral vision made me look up. Derek's phone was propped against the salt shaker, camera facing me, that little red dot glowing. 23 years of marriage, and I was apparently the entertainment for whoever was on the other end of that lens. The worst part wasn't the recording, it was the way Derek kept eating his pasta like nothing was happening, like I was just another Tuesday afternoon joke he could share with God knows who. My name is Delphine, and I spend my mornings at Roosevelt Elementary teaching third graders the difference between fractions and decimals. Room 14 smells like pencil shavings and that industrial floor cleaner they use after lunch. I've been there 11 years, watching kids grow from counting on their fingers to understanding multiplication tables. The bulletin board by my desk still has gold stars from September, rewards for completed homework and kind behavior. At home, our kitchen window faces the Hendersons' backyard where their dog barks at squirrels every morning at 7:15. Derek leaves his coffee mug on the counter instead of putting it in the dishwasher, same spot every day for the past 8 years. I used to move it. Now I just work around it. Our house feels bigger than it used to, rooms echoing when I walk through them in the evenings while Derek watches sports highlights in the basement. Before teaching, I worked as a paralegal for Morrison and Associates downtown. I was good at finding details others missed, organizing case files that lawyers actually thanked me for. My desk faced the courthouse, and I could see people walking up those stone steps carrying folders that would change their lives. I understood the weight of evidence, how small facts could unravel big lies. That job taught me patience and the value of keeping records. The warning text at lunch felt like ice water in my veins, but I kept chewing my salad while Derek's mother talked about fertilizer brands. Something had shifted that day, a crack I couldn't ignore. If this story hits home, make sure you're subscribed. We tell these for a reason. The problem started small, the way most betrayals do. 3 months ago, Derek began working late on Wednesdays, coming home with Chinese takeout and stories about quarterly reports that needed finishing. His clothes smelled different, not perfume, but a floral laundry detergent I never bought. When I asked about it, he shrugged and said the office cleaning lady must have switched brands. Then came the phone calls. Short conversations where he'd walk to the other room, voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Business calls, he explained when I looked curious. Boring stuff about inventory and client meetings. But I noticed how he held the phone differently, almost protective, like he was cupping something precious. The worst moment happened 2 weeks before the lunch incident. I was grading papers at the kitchen table when Derek's phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up with a message preview. Can't wait to see your wife's face when the rest got cut off, but I saw it clear as day. My hand froze over Joey Martinez's math worksheet, pencil hovering above a wrong answer I was about to circle. When Derek came back from the bathroom, I mentioned the message. He grabbed his phone so fast it nearly slipped from his fingers, scrolling through notifications with practice speed. Wrong number, he said without looking at me. Spam text about some contest. But his ears were red, that telltale flush he gets when he lies about forgetting to pick up milk or claiming he never said something he definitely said. I started paying attention differently after that. The way he tilted his phone screen away from me when texting. How he suddenly needed privacy to make work calls. The careful way he placed his phone face down during dinner, like it might accidentally reveal secrets if left unguarded. Looking back, I should have trusted my instincts sooner. But 23 years of marriage creates a strange gravity. You keep orbiting even when the center has shifted. The lunch at Derek's parents' house was supposed to be routine. His mother had invited us over to see their new patio furniture, those wicker chairs with cream cushions she'd been talking about for months. She'd made her famous lasagna, the one with 3 different cheeses that always gives me heartburn, but I eat anyway because refusing would create drama. Derek seemed nervous from the moment we walked through the front door. His hands kept checking his pockets, that restless energy he gets before big presentations at work. He positioned himself across from me at the dining table, which struck me as odd since he usually sits beside me at family dinners. His mother was deep into a story about the neighbor's new fence when I felt my phone vibrate. The unknown number's message made my stomach drop, but I forced myself to keep chewing, keep nodding at appropriate moments in the conversation. That's when I noticed Derek's phone against the salt shaker, angled perfectly to catch my reactions. The red recording light was like a tiny accusation, proof of something I'd suspected but hoped wasn't true. My husband wasn't just deceiving me, he was documenting it, creating evidence of my humiliation for an audience I couldn't see. The lasagna turned to cardboard in my mouth, but I swallowed and asked his mother about the sprinkler system, matching her enthusiasm while my world tilted sideways. Derek's eyes kept flicking to his phone screen, checking something. Probably viewing the live feed, watching me process this betrayal in real time. His mother continued talking about water pressure and timer settings, completely unaware that her dining room had become a stage for something cruel. I excused myself to use the bathroom, legs unsteady as I walked down the hall. In the mirror, my face looked pale but controlled. I splashed cold water on my wrists, an old trick from teaching to calm down before facing a difficult parent conference. When I returned to the table, Derek was leaning back in his chair, relaxed in a way that made my skin crawl. The recording continued through dessert, Derek's phone capturing every forced smile, every careful response to his mother's questions about my job and summer vacation plans. I performed normalcy while something fundamental broke inside me, understanding finally that my marriage had become entertainment for strangers. That night, Derek fell asleep easily while I stared at the ceiling, counting reasons to stay silent. 23 years. The house we'd painted together. The familiarity of shared routines and inside jokes that weren't funny anymore. I could pretend I never saw that recording light, never received that warning text from whoever had sent it. But lying in the dark, I remembered my grandmother's voice from 30 years ago. I was 15, crying about some boy who'd embarrass me in front of his friends, treating me like a joke for their entertainment. Grandma Rose sat beside me on her porch swing, the chains creaking in their familiar rhythm. People will only treat you as poorly as you allow, she had said, her weathered hands steady on mine. The moment you accept disrespect as normal, you teach them that's all you're worth. She died when I was 19, but her words lived in the quiet spaces of my mind, surfacing whenever I needed backbone. Grandma Rose had left an abusive husband in 1952 when divorce was scandal, raising 3 children alone while working at the textile mill. She knew about dignity and the price of keeping it. The next morning, Derek hummed while making coffee, pleased with himself in a way that made my teeth ache. He kissed my forehead before leaving for work, the same casual peck he'd given me for years, but now it felt like mockery. After he left, I sat in room 14 before my students arrived, staring at the gold stars on my bulletin board. Each one represented a child who'd tried harder, done better, earned recognition for growth. I realized I'd forgotten how to expect better for myself, settling for scraps of respect in my own marriage. The fire that started burning that morning wasn't rage, it was something cooler and more dangerous. It was the quiet certainty that I deserved truth, and if Derek wouldn't give it willingly, I'd find another way to get it. I started small, testing the waters of Derek's deception like a scientist gathering data. Tuesday morning, I mentioned running into his coworker Sarah at the grocery store. Derek nodded casually, but Sarah had been on maternity leave for 4 months, a detail he'd either forgotten or never knew. When I pointed this out, he stumbled through an explanation about seeing her briefly when she brought the baby to the office. My next test came Wednesday evening. I asked about his late work project, the quarterly reports he'd mentioned. Derek launched into specifics about client metrics and deadline pressures, but his terminology was wrong. After 11 years of marriage to someone in sales management, I knew the difference between quarterly reviews and annual audits. He was mixing up basic concepts, creating elaborate lies on the spot. The phone monitoring proved trickier. Derek had changed his passcode from our anniversary date to something I couldn't guess. He kept the device close, taking it to the bathroom and sleeping with it on his nightstand instead of the kitchen charging station where it used to live. My first real mistake came Thursday night. I waited until Derek was showering, then tried accessing his laptop in the home office. But he changed that password too, and after 3 failed attempts, the screen locked with a security message. When Derek came downstairs in his bathrobe, hair still damp, he went straight to the computer. "Everything okay with the laptop?" he asked, voice carefully neutral. The login screen showed my failed password attempts, timestamped and obvious. I invented a story about checking our bank balance, but Derek's eyes stayed suspicious for the rest of the evening. I realized I needed professional help. Friday after school, I drove to Morrison & Associates, my old workplace downtown. The receptionist, Kim, still remembered me and buzzed me back to see Marcus Morrison himself. Marcus listened while I explained my situation, his expression growing more concerned as I described the secret recording and changing passwords. He recommended a private investigator, someone discreet who specialized in marital cases. The consultation fee was $300, money I'd have to take from our grocery budget without Derek noticing. But doubt crept in during the drive home. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe Derek really was just stressed about work. Maybe the recording at lunch had an innocent explanation I hadn't considered. By Saturday morning, I'd almost convinced myself to let it go, to return to the comfortable lie of ignorance. Then I found the receipt. The receipt fell out of Derek's jacket pocket while I was sorting laundry Saturday morning. Dinner for 2 at Romano's, our anniversary restaurant, dated last Wednesday, the same night he'd claimed to be working late on quarterly reports. The total was $87, far too expensive for a solo business dinner. I photographed the receipt before putting it back, hands shaking with a mixture of vindication and heartbreak. The evidence was clear now, undeniable. Derek wasn't just lying about working late, he was sharing intimate dinners at places that held meaning in our marriage. Monday afternoon, I called Marcus Morrison from my empty classroom. The private investigator he recommended, Janet Kozlov, agreed to meet me that evening at a coffee shop near the courthouse. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes that seemed to catalog details automatically. Janet explained the process with professional efficiency. Phone records, financial statements, surveillance if necessary. Most cheating spouses, she said, followed predictable patterns once they felt secure in their deception. The secret recording at lunch suggested Derek's betrayal went beyond simple adultery. He was sharing private moments with someone else, possibly multiple people. The investigation took 2 weeks. Janet's reports arrived via secure email, each one adding pieces to a puzzle I wasn't sure I wanted to complete. Derek was indeed having an affair, but the situation was more complicated than simple infidelity. His Wednesday companion was Melissa Chin, a bartender at the Marriott downtown. But the phone records showed extensive communication with several other numbers, including Derek's coworker Brad Hoffman and someone named Crystal who lived across town. The pattern suggested Derek wasn't just cheating, he was part of some kind of group sharing intimate details about their spouses. The final report included screenshots from Brad's social media, posted to a private group called Wives Gone Wild. The photos showed me at the lunch, unaware I was being recorded, along with similar candid shots of other women. The captions were cruel, mocking our appearances, our mannerisms, our obvious trust in husbands who were betraying us for entertainment. Janet's evidence packet was thorough, bank statements showing payments to various women, hotel receipts, phone logs proving coordination between Derek and his friends. The secret recording wasn't isolated, it was part of an ongoing pattern of using wives as unknowing content for their private entertainment network. That night, after Derek fell asleep, I sat in our kitchen reading through everything one final time. The man I'd shared 2 decades with had reduced me to a punchline, shared intimate details of our marriage with strangers who collected humiliating photos like trophies. But I also felt something unexpected, relief. The gaslighting was over. The careful explanations and innocent coincidences had been replaced by documented proof. I finally knew exactly who I was married to and exactly what I needed to do about it. I filed for divorce on a Thursday morning, 48 hours after receiving Janet's final report. My lawyer, Patricia Vance, was someone Marcus Morrison had recommended, sharp, experienced, and unsympathetic to cheating husbands who thought they were cleverer than they actually were. Derek's reaction was exactly what I'd expected: denial, then anger, then desperate attempts at negotiation. He claimed the affair meant nothing, that the private group was just guy talk that got out of hand. But the evidence was overwhelming, and Patricia had prepared our case with surgical precision. The divorce proceedings moved quickly once Derek realized fighting would only expose more of his behavior to public record. His affair partners scattered when they learned about the investigation, suddenly unavailable for the supportive calls Derek needed. Melissa Chen stopped answering his texts. Brad Hoffman requested a transfer to a different department. Crystal changed her phone number entirely. I kept teaching through everything, finding comfort in the routine of lesson plans and parent conferences. My students noticed I seemed different, more direct, less willing to accept incomplete work or disrespectful behavior. Room 14 felt like a sanctuary where I could focus on growth and learning instead of deception and betrayal. The house sold faster than expected. Derek moved into a studio apartment downtown, close to the bars where he'd cultivated his secret life. I found a smaller place near the school, a duplex with hardwood floors and windows that actually opened properly. The kitchen was tiny but bright, with no space for coffee mugs to accumulate on counters. 3 months after the divorce was final, I got a call from Janet Kozlov. 2 other women from Derek's group had discovered their husband's activities and wanted to pursue legal action. Would I be willing to share my testimony about the recording incident and the broader pattern of behavior? I agreed. Not out of revenge, but because other women deserved to know the truth about their marriages. The lawsuit against the private social media group succeeded, resulting in significant financial settlements and permanent restraining orders against sharing private images without consent. I still teach in Room 14, still hand out gold stars for effort and improvement. But something fundamental shifted after that warning text at lunch. I stopped accepting small betrayals as normal, stopped making excuses for behavior that demanded explanations. Last month, a new teacher asked how I stayed so calm during difficult parent conferences. I thought about Grandma Rose, about dignity and the price of keeping it. Sometimes, I told her, the biggest kindness you can give someone is refusing to pretend their bad behavior is acceptable. The anonymous text sender never revealed their identity, but I think about them often. Someone at that lunch saw what was happening and chose to warn me rather than stay silent. In a world where people often look away from uncomfortable truths, that stranger's courage changed everything. Derek remarried last year. The wedding announcement appeared in my social media feed by accident. I felt nothing looking at his smiling face beside a woman I didn't recognize. Not anger, not sadness, just the quiet satisfaction of knowing I'd chosen truth over comfortable lies. People sometimes ask if I regret the investigation, the divorce, the upheaval of starting over in my 50s. But regret implies I had better options, that staying ignorant would have been somehow kinder. The truth was waiting either way. I just chose to meet it on my own terms instead of letting it ambush me later. Some betrayals are designed to be discovered. The question isn't whether you'll find out, but whether you'll have the courage to act when you do.